my Cancer friends. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, and intuitive guide. And I'm here today with your August 2021 horoscope. I am a Western whole sign astrologer. That's how I was taught. So these readings are based on that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a few of the transits that are going on this month. And then I'm going to do a reading at the end for the angels to help you traverse the transits. So what I want to do is I want to start off with a couple of really important things that are happening. We have the planet Jupiter moving retrograde back into the sign of Aquarius. And it will be joining Saturn, which is already in Aquarius. And Saturn is retrograde as well. For you, Cancers, this is in your 8th house of transformation. The 8th house generally rules other people's money, death, taxes, inheritances, the occult. It rules sex. It rules the intimacy between people after marriage and once everything is revealed that we may not have seen originally. So it's a big house of transformation. What Jupiter moving through your 8th house is going to do is have you revisit your beliefs about the other people in your life, about other people's money in your life, about the idea of taxes, about the idea of how spiritual dynamics or the quote unquote occult may benefit you. This is an opportunity. Jupiter will be retrograde in your 8th house. I'm sorry, it's your 11th house. The 8th house is normally what rules transformation, death, and taxes. I'm sorry, I got confused. So this is actually in the sign of Aquarius for you. So there is a certain amount of liberation that happens as a result of this transformation. There is the possibility that this happens in a bit of an unexpected way, in a way that says, you know, I'm sick of doing what everybody else does, and now I'm going to want to express my uniqueness and move that story forward. Jupiter and Saturn being in Aquarius in your 8th house is going to have an influence until October, when the planets will then start to move forward again. So this is a big revisit. It's a revisit of the structures in your life. It's a revisit of the limitations in your life. It's a revisit of your own philosophies, belief, how culture in general affects you, the human condition in general. Now, if we think about this, we take the idea of Cancer being the mothering, nurturing energy, there could be a large transformation in how you choose to nurture yourself and to nurture others. Saturn traditionally is called a malefic, which means that it has been labeled with a very challenging energy. Saturn also rules the father figure. So I like to think of this challenging Saturnian energy as something that is actually guiding me in a way that's asking me, am I moving towards my deeper truth? Am I working hard towards the things I love? Because if I'm not, Saturn's going to put the kibosh on it. Saturn's going to make me feel depressed, make me feel oppressed. And then I'm going to start to ask myself, what do I really believe about my ability to nurture, to create family, to get in touch with my Cancerian energy, my intuitions? Cancer traditionally rules home and hearth, but it also rules property. It rules the oceans. It rules intuition. So I think these are the things that you're going to be experiencing and have the greatest influence because they have the longest dynamic going on. In August, on August 1st, we have the Sun and Mercury in Leo opposing Saturn in Aquarius. The Sun is my identity, my ego identity, how I present myself out in the world, and Mercury is how I think. rules my everyday activities. It rules my thinking, teaching, writing, speaking. It rules school-age children. It rules neighborhoods and communities and roadways and escalators and elevators and all sorts of things that move people around. So you might find yourself really thinking about how and musing about how am I expressing myself out in the world, and is it in alignment with what I want to express? We also have the planet Mars that has moved into Virgo, and it's going to be opposing Jupiter in the first 29 or the 29th degree of Aquarius on the 1st. So it's right when it's moved back into Aquarius. Mars is the planet of action. It's a planet of war, but it's also a planet of truth, courage, bravery, and pioneering spirit. So this beginning of the month is really going to ask Cancer to really think about how the structures in your life are aligned to your beliefs and what you want in the way of moving forward, and asking you in some ways if you're willing to be brave to move towards what you want. We have on the 8th a new moon in Leo. New moons happen every month. And when it's in Leo, it's about fun. It's about children. It's about hobbies and pleasure. And we plant our seeds in the new moon, in the dark of the new moon, and we nurture them as we come into the full moon, so that by the time we reach the illumination of the full moon, we get an idea of how we are growing our crops. So as you, on this day of great, it's a very auspicious day, August 8th. The 8s are numbers of money, and Jupiter rules wealth. So as you align this to this new moon with your wants and desires, you have an opportunity to revisit ideas and transform yourself in a way where you're able to receive the bounty that Jupiter has to offer, and to have it in a way that really makes it long term, which is what Saturn has to offer. We have on the 9th, the day after the new moon, we have Venus in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces. This influence is going to last a few days, and it could make things, your possessions, your love life, your artistry, and your sense of self-worth feel a little bit murky. And I think if it feels murky, it's because you might be measuring yourself on how others are responding to you. I think what Neptune is asking in its request for us to be egoless is not to not have an ego, but rather to determine whether we are willing to acquiesce our ego to somebody else's viewpoint, or whether we're willing to be egoless and not really care whether they're in agreement with our wants and desires. Aquarius rules our hopes and our dreams. It rules networks and friends and social media and human consciousness, the collective. So a lot of these things might come up for you, and how do they affect me in my home life? So be mindful of that. On the week of the 16th, and exact, I believe on the 18th, Mars and Mercury are going to be in conjunction on the 18th, but they're going to be doing this dance. So the planet of war and the planet of thinking and speaking are hanging out with each other in a sign that can be very critical, can expect perfection in its most challenging energies. So be mindful as the month progresses, whether or not you're communicating from an authentic truth in what can be heard, or whether you've inadvertently done a crab crawl to avoid a confrontation that might actually be beneficial to you. On the 17th, we have Venus moving into its natural sign of Libra. So that's going to bring a harmonious aspect to things. We have on the 21st, Uranus that rules Aquarius, the planet of revolution, the planet that says, I have to be me. I want to be me. I want to stand out as a unique individual, is going to be in a trine aspect, which is a harmonious aspect with Mars in Virgo. This is going to last a couple of days and could in some ways bring unexpected arguments that could lead to liberation, because they're not going to be arguments that are deal breakers. They're going to be potentially heated discussions, potentially authentic, real, blunt conversations that lead to change. And I think as a Cancer, rising moon, sun, or stelliums, it's important for you to really use this energy to determine what's important to you and to be in some ways fearless through a loving energy in expressing that so that you can get the most out of these influences. On the 22nd, around 5 a.m. Pacific time, we have our second, which makes it a full blue moon in Aquarius. Again, Aquarius rules revolution, liberation, freedom, independence, science, technology. It rules systems without a head. That would be anything on the internet, YouTube, Twitter, things like that. And so as we have this full moon and this illumination in the last degree of Aquarius, it's going to give you an opportunity to really look deeply at your own hopes and desires and whether or not they're being fulfilled. And I don't think you're meant to look really outside of yourself as a moon-ruled person. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So regardless of where the moon is, it's always going to have a profound effect on you. So as you're willing to look at, am I taking actions based on what is expected of me, of what my family wants of me, or am I making my decisions and my actions based on what's authentic to me, which actually raises my vibration, makes me feel ultimately happier, so that I can go back into that family dynamic with an attitude that serves the good of the whole family as I express my own individuality. Very powerful. We move into Virgo season on the 22nd or 23rd, depending on where you are in the world. And then on the 24th and 25th, we're going to have Mercury in Virgo in opposition to Neptune in Pisces. Murky communications. In some ways, there could potentially be lies of omission, and that could be because people are fear-based to tell their truth. Virgo, in its most challenging dynamic, can be extremely critical and judgmental. And Pisces is a very spiritual sign. It likes to, it's the sign of the fish, and it rules water. So whatever vessel water goes into, it takes that form. So we may find these murky communications are a result of feeling that we're not taking the form that another expects of us. And I would actually put a pause on that and try to figure out what you want for you before you actually communicate, or even when you're receiving a communication, take a second look. And finally, the last day of the month, Mercury moves into Libra, joining Venus there, and that's going to be a love fest. We're going to talk about love, talk about beautiful things. We're going to focus on beautiful things as we go into the Virgo season and into the fall. So Cancer, what do the angels have to say for traversing this transits? We have the Kyle Gray card, the winter card, take care of you. This is really an interesting energy because two things. It indicates some sort of change happening in the winter season. And I think it is as a result of you taking care of your own needs. Again, Cancer is a sign that rules home and hearth and children. And well, it rules the nurturing of children. So how do you nurture yourself? Because as you nurture yourself, you will be better able and better equipped and have a better attitude as you're nurturing others. We have Celeste and Merlin in the foundational position for Cancer for the month of August. A shift to a new home or a new place of employment will usher in new energy. And Merlin is a card of justice, balance, and alchemy. So we have Jupiter moving into your 8th house of transformation, of getting deep and under the surface of things. I believe that what's happening for Cancer is a shift in the way you're thinking. Because you can put me in any job, you can put me in any home. I have a certain way of thinking, and I take my actions based on that thinking and that belief. And here's Merlin offering alchemy. So we think about Jupiter ruling my belief system, ruling my religious beliefs, my judicial beliefs. So as you allow for the transformation that's being offered and the liberation that's being offered, there's balance coming in. Your opportunity and or your obstacle, interestingly, we have Merlina here, which feels very much like the female version of Merlin. And you may be confused right now because when you look for love, you're looking at it in such a way that in the way you have experienced it from your family, from your friends, from the networks that you are involved in. So let's say you're that person that whenever you come to a party, you always bring something. And then one day you don't. And you may wonder, will people still love me if I don't do what's expected of me? It's time to shift that thinking and to allow yourself to believe that you're loved for who you are, not just what you bring to the table. Because in the angel's advice, there could be a frustration that you've been dealing with that is calling forth this transformation. And this fear may be false evidence appearing real. To me, Cancer can be a very obligated sign in some ways. It's a cardinal sign and it rules the lowest point in the chart, which sits and holds the whole rest of the globe up. So that obligation may put you in a sense of fear that other people have an expectation of you. And I feel like this is an opportunity to liberate yourself from that expectation, because Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage and to know that you're being protected as you lovingly and coolly and calmly assert yourself into this new belief system or into this renovated way of looking at your life and looking at your value in life. I really feel like the bottom line here is that I believe that Cancer is much more loved than sometimes they feel. And because they're constantly putting others ahead of themselves, they don't ever get to experience the reception of somebody putting them first. And I think that's what that's what's happening here. I think it's important about taking care of your needs so that you are being able to be adaptable within a pack as well as an individual. And the wolf is one of the few animals that is year-round, hunts in the winter, hunts in the spring. It's very adaptable. So as you allow for this shift in the way you're thinking about how people are perceiving you, you on some level are adapting to a new dynamic that invites in more validation of how much you are loved. All right, that's it for my Cancers for this month, August 2021. If you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below in the description, and I'll be back next month with more of your heavenly horoscopes. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing this video. I appreciate your support and sending lots of love to you. Peace out.